You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Welcome to another edition of Global Trade This Week. It comes to you every single week, hence the name of our show. My name is Doug Draper. I'm coming to you from Colorado. I'm only half of this podcast group. The other half is actually somewhat stable in his corporate offices in the District of Washington, D.C. Mr. Pete Mento. Pete, what's going on, man?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, I'm on the phone this week, people. I'm on my new iPhone 15. I'm sure that just made Keenan so angry hearing me say that. And I was having a hard time with my laptop, so we're doing it. We're doing it old school here from the phone. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't have the landscape beautiful camera. It's just me kicking it old school here on the phone, bud.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good. You got your shirt open a little bit, so it must be a casual Monday there at DSV.
You're all button up, pal. I like to give the disco vibe, you know? I like that.
Well, you play it. You play it off.
Yeah. I just need to get my little gold horn for my chain here. Then I'll feel like one of my family members.
Nice. Love it. Love it. All right. So anyway.
Are you a jewelry guy, Doug, before we get started?
What's that?
Are you a jewelry guy?
No.
Other than your wedding ring? No?
There's my wedding ring.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't wear like a chain, no cross on your neck or anything?
No. I have nothing. Yeah. What about you? I don't see you wearing much jewelry.
Oh, no. Well, I it's funny. So I got my chain with my Saint Michael here, keep me out of trouble. And sometimes I'll wear my class ring from Harvard, but not really, no. I mean, I don't even wear a watch anymore, buddy, because I just look at my phone.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, here's my watch, and it's got duct tape on the back of it because the little plastic thing that you tuck this into. So it's a swatch. You remember swatches back in the day? I love
swatches. Yeah, I used to wear two back in the 80s.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one was set to the time in London because I thought I was so cool. Spoiler alert, Doug. I was not very cool. I was not very cool at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's our Global Trade This Week Rolex that Doug just showed you.
Yes. Yeah. A swatch with duct tape to make sure it doesn't flap around.
And we're not very. You and I are very flashy. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Neither one.
We have pressed collared shirts on today, so that's all you can ask for on a Global Trade show.
That's pretty big for me to actually have a shirt on and not have a hat on backwards. But I'm in the office, so I got to bring it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of bringing it, you get the kickoff for topic number one. Looks like it's going to be a good show, so let her rip.
Yes, sir. So, this particular topic is file it under no way, Captain Obvious, right? Like this is something that should be so easy for all of us to understand and to know. But it took someone actually putting out some statistics to really get everyone's attention. So the ongoing Red Sea crisis has reduced the amount of shipping through the Red Sea by 90%. And that's inclusive of all carrier types. So that's container ships, that's LNG carriers, that's, large crude carriers, 90%. And then the ongoing cost to global trade has been positively incredible. So as you're seeing rates rising everywhere, that's only part of it. The unavailability of words are escaping me today, Doug. The unavailability of certain types of inventory has also been taken into account. And, globally, this is having a pressing concern, particularly for Europe. They're the ones that are being the hardest hit with the amount of time and length that's being taken to get to European ports. And then into China, with stuff going into China from Europe, particularly large equipment involved in project cargoes. So, yes, file it under Captain Obvious, but now we can give you an idea of just how much of an impact it's had for global trade. And with no end in sight currently, it looks like this is going to be kind of our default setting for, I don't know, Doug, at least the next 6 months, I would imagine. Yeah. But I know when we did our prediction episode, you and I were pretty sure this was going to kick the world in the ass, and it looks like it really has, pal.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the statistics, right? Because everybody can talk about it. The talking heads, you and I, part of that group of like, hey, here's what's going to happen, da, da, da. And the fact that we spoke about it and now there's statistics and data, the 90% is amazing. And I think they said like 10 or 15% of daily world commerce moves through there. So you take that number and say 90% of it's no longer. And then there was another stat that I saw that it's 11,000 nautical miles that's added when you go around.
Addition.
Yeah, that's insane. Yep. And then the fuel price to chase that and do everything else is that it was talked about and predicted. Now it's happening, and those numbers are staggering. It's just crazy.
And 65 countries are now being negatively affected by the crossing. I thought that was a pretty terrifying number. It's not just hitting the United States. It's hitting everyone. So if you've ever had any doubt about how very little it would take to disrupt global commerce, there you go, buddy. It's another $1 million in fuel costs for one of these ships. That was in that statistic too. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible, man. It didn't take very much to upend the entire global commerce. Just a bunch of people with a different mindset and a bunch of rockets, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that kind of dovetails a little bit into my topic, and maybe it's Captain Obvious 2.0. But I think people need to really understand that the supply chain is going to get nutty when it comes in. I was thinking about the second half of the year. So I was thinking about one of Kevin Bacon's first movies. He was in Animal House, right? And it's all chaos at the end, and he's screaming, "Remain calm, all is well." Right. And he's saying that, but there's just chaos all around him. Right. And it may not be that. We may not have a Kevin Bacon moment coming up, but gosh darn it, if people aren't ready for a plan B, and we've spoken about this real recently, there's just more. And the reason I'm bringing it up again, Pete, is there's more and more things that are just like, check that box. That means it's going to get crazy. Check that box. That means it's going to get crazy. And just last week, the Longshoremen Association was kind of pulled out of talks. They're like, hey, we're walking away from initial contract negotiation discussions, and people say it's kind of a shout or a shot across the bow, right? So there's a couple things to that. Number one is that group represents 36 ports from Maine down to the Gulf of Mexico that is being impacted. So, or potentially impacted, right? So you look at the West Coast, you got basically 3, maybe 3.5, LA, Oakland, Seattle, and maybe throw in Portland. As the 0.5, right? Yeah. And so, but you look at the East Coast, 36, right? And a lot of them are smaller, but those are the second tier ports that people are redirecting. Hey, Baltimore's this crazy thing happened in Baltimore. We'll just redirect, down the coast, or we'll redirect up. This situation covers all of those ports, right? So if something goes crazy, it's going to be huge impact. It's nuts. The other thing is that ocean freight and air freight rates are starting to creep up a little bit, right? I heard this morning that they're saying it could be $20,000 to get to California. That's just, I'd have to relook to see who that, if it was CNBC or something like that. But, that's going to come into play. So you have the Red Sea that you just spoke about. You have the longshoreman situation that covers a dramatic amount of ports that could be impacted, right? And then you have people just kind of freaking out a little bit. The wild card on this one, specific to the ports, Pete, and then I'll wrap it up, is that 2023 was kind of the year of labor, right? That we spoke about. How many different entities had their negotiations, and the union pretty much won out on every single engagement. So the question is the East Coast longshoremen, are they kind of late to the party and things have changed in 2024? Or are they looking at this and saying, this is our chance to get what we want? So I don't know. That's another maybe topic for a different show. But did these guys miss the year of labor in 2023? Or are they smart enough to know that they control a heck of a lot of ports from Maine down to the Gulf? And they're going to get what they want as well. So I don't know. What's your take on that?
Oh, they know, Doug. Yeah, that's like first. I believe the kids use the term "get that bag," get that bag of money. The East Coast port, the unions that are associated with the dock workers, they might have missed out on their opportunity, but they're walking into another one now with the Red Sea. And people well remember what COVID was like. So I think they're in a tremendous position to negotiate from leverage. Add to the fact it's an election year. So, you talk to a lot of the pundits and the people that know a lot more about this than I do, and they say, well, President Biden's definitely going to get in there. Okay, well, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a good walloping between then and when they finally make a decision. It's a labor forward administration right now. So odds are he's going to be trying to push the opportunity for labor. And, the ocean carriers want more automation, man. They've been begging for it, particularly on the East Coast. But the thing no one's talking enough about, Doug, and we talk about rail all the time on this show, all the time. If stuff ends up being just rerouted to the West Coast because of a real strike, we still don't have the rail capacity to manage that stuff moving all the way east. It's going to cause a blip, and that blip is going to hurt. Mm-hmm. And everything is so interconnected. Air, ocean, over the road, rail, it's going to end up impacting everything else. So this is probably the first pull on that sweater that we'll see through the peak. That's going to be a pretty difficult year, Q3, Q4 for finishing up the year for transportation. It just takes one domino to fall for all the rest of them to be impacted.
Yeah. Great analogy on the sweater. Love it. So cool. Well, that brings us to halftime. It's brought to you by Cap Logistics. They give us our platform every single week, and we can't thank them enough for that. And they also give us halftime, which is where Pete and I can just talk about whatever we want to talk about. And I look forward to that every single week. Sometimes it's my favorite topic. But
usually is, Doug. Usually is your favorite topic. Yeah.
Usually is. Yes. So, well, what you got? I kind of liked yours when you shot it over a couple minutes ago.
Buddy, yesterday was Father's Day. You and I are fathers. It's a very wonderful, fulfilling, noble thing to get to be a father. But on Father's Day, you compare it to Mother's Day, right? We get utterly shafted, my friend. There's no other way for me to put it. Go to breakfast yesterday morning, about 9:30. My favorite breakfast spot. Just go ahead and sit down. Plenty of room. Reservation. What are you, crazy? Have a seat, Doc. We'll get you your eggs. No sweat. You could probably get a reservation for any restaurant you wanted to go to yesterday. And then of course there's the gifts and all the rest of it. I just want a card. I don't want gifts. It's my money anyway. Why are you spending it? As opposed to Mother's Day, which is this all-out financial assault for mothers. And I think, honestly, man, it's because they demand it. I think this is because men, we're told on Father's Day, go grill for everyone for dinner. Like, oh, so this is my restful Father's Day. I got to go put some steaks on the grill. No, we don't put our foot down and demand some type of love and affection on that day. Most of us just want to be left the hell alone for the day. And I think that's why it's so vastly different, one versus the other. And I think it's time that we put our foot down, Doug.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting take. I think it's just the nature of males and females, right? Dudes are like, hey, I've been doing it and just leave me alone. I did 3.5 hours. I did 3.5 hours of yard work while the rest of my family went on a bike ride. And I loved it. That was what I wanted to do.
You got left alone to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Dad, you want to go on a bike ride? Nah, I'll catch up with you later. It's Father's Day. I'm going to go cut down a little shrubs and trees and stuff like that. So,
my time.
Yep. So good. And then we went out to dinner, and of course, it's coming from my pocketbook.
You're paying.
That's fine. We got some family time, and it's good. So nice.
Yeah, buddy.
So,
all right, what you got, Doug?
Well, mine is related to I don't know if you saw that the board of directors at Tesla last week. This topic's a little bit late to the game, but if you remember, he had like a $50 billion paycheck coming. I'm going to keep this super simple, and I know that there's some other things that are in play, but something that was set up pre-COVID, time to pay the piper, and then the judge, I think in Delaware, struck it down, and then the board, the shareholders were like, nah, here, we agree, $50 billion, right? So. And then Musk, he's got some crazy quotes he did on X and everything else. That guy is just amazing. Love him or hate him, right? And I do both relatively frequently, but it's like he's got a cult. He's got a cult with Tesla and the people that love Teslas. his SpaceX, Neuralink. Like, it's just crazy. And now he's getting $50 billion from his shareholders because they think that there's value. So I don't know if there's pink Kool-Aid, green Kool-Aid, or if he's just a mastermind of a cult. But it's just nuts. I mean, $50 billion. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. So what's your take on that story?
Well, I love it being, to the core capitalist. If you can negotiate a great deal like that and then come through, you bet on himself and the guy won. And then if you read the other comments from last week, he said that their robotics should be ready in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And that Tesla robotics is going to catapult them into a $1 trillion valuation. So he'll easily be the most wealthy human being in the history of the planet if that's the case. So I'm all for it, man. I think you should get paid. And if you can negotiate it and you follow through with it and you bet on yourself, good for him, man. Good for him. Yeah. I don't drive a Tesla and I don't own any of their stocks, so I could care less. I'm just happy for Elon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, well, what's that worth? It's worth what people will pay for it, right?
Exactly.
What's your house's value? It's really valued at whatever anybody's going to pay for it. So what's his value? I guess at this stage of the game, it's $50 billion. But the last thing on this, Pete, and then we'll hit our second half. At what point it's going to happen, and I think it may happen in our lifetime, somebody's going to be a trillionaire, right?
It will be him.
He fluctuates between, Gates and him and a couple other folks. I can't think of the name straight away. The Louis Vuitton.
He's always number one. Yeah. Oh, he's going to blow him away.
It's just like compounding interest, right? It's just going to go like this, and then it's just going to skyrocket. I think there will be a trillionaire before
he'll be the first one.
Lifetime.
Yeah. So these robots, buddy, they're going to cost $20,000, $10,000 to make, $20,000 to put in place. They'll do your laundry. They'll clean your house. They'll drive your car to go do stuff. Are you kidding me? $20,000 for that? Oh, I might buy two, for God's sakes, right? Just to have running my house for me. And, the expectation is there'll be 10 humanoid robots for every person living on the planet. He is going to make so much money. So much money. He'll be the first trillionaire. He'll be the one.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, that won't be you and I anytime soon. But
oh boy, will it! No.
We have this great show, and we're about to start the second half of it. So I'll let you get us kicked off, my friend.
Oh, buddy. So last week it came out in the news that President Trump is he's throwing out there the idea of eliminating the income tax, just eliminating it, right? But replacing it with tariffs. So in order to completely eliminate the income tax, you would have to put a tariff on all imports of around 100 to 130%. And that's everything, right? So what if you just did China and then cut it in half? You begin to look at all these numbers. The knock-on effect of this is something we learned from Smoot-Hawley way back in the day. Yeah. If you dramatically increase tariffs on goods coming into America, people are going to buy less foreign goods. Well, okay, fine. Whatever. But that means those people in those other countries aren't going to have jobs and money to buy American exports. And that's really what drives our economy. So would I be fascinated at the idea of increasing tariffs to decrease income tax? Of course, because I think, taxes are theft. But the ongoing part of this is if you play around with this too much, you could wreck the entire global economy, Doug, the entire thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I pulled a quote when I saw this. I was like, okay, that's Smoot-Hawley from back in the late 1920s, right? It's almost 100 years ago. And this was the quote. It said, this is an act to provide revenue, to regulate commerce with foreign countries, and encourage the industries of the United States and protect American labor. That quote could be the billboard for what he's talking about right now. I mean, it's the same thing. And you talk about the damage that Smoot-Hawley did at the time, and nothing fixes problems like a good war. But to like you said, it's more interconnected now, the globe and the economy, than ever before. And it would be interesting, to say the least, about how that would impact. I don't know. It's crazy.
And it's an economic pipe bomb, buddy. I don't think this is the right way to go. I would rather see a domestic consumption tax like a VAT, and I hate taxes, but I'd rather see we were hit on consumption rather than what we earned. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
No politics, Doug. No politics.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, unfortunately, we're going to cross that line a few times before November. All right. So my last topic, man, Pete, is I want to know who the heck's getting ready for peak season. And I'll tell you who is. It's the Chinese e-commerce companies. There has been so much press related to the fast fashion world. So getting their ducks in a row in order to support third and fourth quarter in the holiday season, right? So Cargojet, which is a Canadian company, they just contracted to do 3 flights a week out of China at a second tier airport near Shanghai, right? Hangzhou. And all of their customers are e-commerce, Shein, Temu, the whole bit. And it's contracted with a company called Great Vision Express. And that is the powerhouse that supports all of the fast casual companies. And so they're like, let's just get this stuff over here as fast as we possibly can on air freight, the whole supply chain solution that those type of things have come up. Then you got the 301s that kind of had some bubbling up last week with
321.
What?
321s.
Oh,
yep.
Sorry. What did I say?
The 301s, the Chinese tariff from Trump. But you're talking about Chapter 86, de minimis, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, thanks for that correction. So the interest, the scrutiny, the review of de minimis is coming in. There's the fentanyl and the Ozempic that's being smuggled in. I get that, right? But the interesting thing is that these companies are starting to own the rails. We've spoken about it in the past. It's like, we're not going to contract out. We're not going to be in a position where we're going to be impacted. We're going to develop our own links via air freight to support our customers and the fast fashion industry to make sure there's no delays with product to get from China over to the United States. So I think we'll see a lot of partnerships coming up in the news about how those companies are going to protect their best interest as fourth quarter comes, and all the chaos that we're talking about that our listeners need to understand a plan B coming in Q3 and Q4, because we will continue to talk about it. But I'll tell you who's getting ready, Pete. It's Chinese e-commerce companies and the service providers they partner with.
Agreed, buddy. And again, to go back to my street hustler lingo, hate the game, don't hate the player, right? So the environment that they're in is forcing them to pivot based on rates and all the rest of it. And they're going to do that. And they have the buying power to do that. And we might not like it as people who sell air freight to consumers, but the market is what the market is. And when you have that much volume, you can easily move the needle. And you can take capacity out from one place and put it into another because you're demanding of it, right? You have customers that want it. So I see this as possibly a point of evolution where Chinese e-commerce companies begin to see if they buy at enough volume, they can buy at a cheap enough number where they can do it via air freight instead of ocean freight. And I think, buddy, this could be a real big crack in that evolution, right? That butterfly coming out of the cocoon of a new type of e-commerce attitude towards supply chain, where air freight becomes the more the more used mode rather than ocean freight.
Yeah. Who would ever thought that comment would be somewhat realistic 5 years ago? Hey, we're going to air freight in e-commerce from China.
Yeah, we're going to air freight in your $6 of socks, your $200 pairs of socks for $6 on Temu, because we're able to do it based on the volume that we buy, and because of the amount that American consumers have decided to buy from these companies. And like I said, you can hate the game, don't hate the player. God bless them for figuring it out.
Yeah, agreed. Good way to end it.
Well, that's going to do it for Doug and I this week on Global Trade This Week. Shout out to Keenan and our friends at Cap Logistics. More Cap Logistics than Keenan, but we can't do it without them. And we thank all of you for listening to us week after week and telling your friends. And if it happens next week, or we think it might happen somewhere down the line, we'll be talking about it on Global Trade This Week. Take it easy, Doug.
All right, Pete. Take care.
See you, buddy.